Hello everyone, my name is Clantis and welcome to Clantis Dumagu, the podcast. So guys, without further ado, let's get into this video because I have a few things that I need to discuss. It's something that I know it's kind of like jumping the queue of all the topics that I need to discuss, and if you've been waiting, please, I ask for your patience. I know I will get to your suggestions or your questions and responding them into a video. But there's something that I observed in a couple of days ago. But before we get there, guys, I know I don't ask you of this favor, but apparently if you're watching on YouTube, you are supposed to like the video, because if you like the video, that you see the like button there at the bottom of this video, yeah, if you just click it, it takes a nanosecond to do that. Apparently it triggers the YouTube algorithm to take the video and promotes it to more people. And if it promotes it to more people who may be interested in the type of content that I create or I post on YouTube from my podcast, then those people, then they get the opportunity to get to know about this channel, get to know about me as well. Maybe somebody is thinking of taking a trip to, I don't know, maybe let's say Cancun or something, and then they come across this video or this channel, and then they get to hear the information that I drop in this podcast. They might change their mind and say, okay, I think I'm just going to change my trip from Cancun to South Africa, or from Cancun to Nigeria or Ghana or Kenya or whatever the case might be. So please smash the like button for me, because it will help with that. It just takes a nanosecond. That's all. That is all that it takes. Please, because sometimes I do see the views, they more than the likes, when in fact there's supposed to be a 10% difference. Like if my views are 100, if I could have 10 likes or something like that, which I still think 10 is still little for it to trigger the algorithm. But anyways, I am grateful for whatever number that I get from these from the likes, because I believe that I have a loyal community that enjoys and appreciates my content. So please help me with that one. I know there's something else that I'm supposed to, oh yeah, subscribing as well. Subscribing, especially at this point of my channel, is also important, because I need to get to 1,000 subscribers. And then there's 4,000 hours that we also need to work on. And I can share with you that currently my YouTube channel has about 3,200 hours. So we are about 800 hours away from 4,000 hours of watch time that YouTube requires, and 1,000 subscribers. So if you're just watching and not subscribing, I would also ask you this favor. Please also subscribe. I'll highly appreciate that. Get me to 1,000 subscribers, please, probably by end of this year. I will very much appreciate that. So anyways, guys, let's get into today's podcast. And this is an observation that I observed on, was it Thursday? Yeah, on Thursday. So an African-American friend of mine had gone home for about 3.5 weeks in July. So he could not wait to get back to South Africa. He lives here in South Africa for the next 4 years or so. He's on retirement visa. And then, so he and I communicated while he was back in the US, and he would just say, man, I just need to get back home, meaning back to South Africa, because he owns a home here in South Africa as well. And he's like, I just miss home. And then because we also had not hung out in a minute, so he then suggested that, hey, why don't you meet me at the airport when I arrive on the 29th? And then we could, hang out and have ourselves dinner and catch up, and then get to tell you about my trip. Because those are the things that we do. We would either hang out on weekends when he's here. We'll go out to wherever it is that they want to go out to, and have some fun with other African-American friends of mine and his own as well, and some South Africans as well. And then I don't know if I ever told you guys that I'm actually a recluse, and ever since I've started this podcast, and in fact ever since I started YouTube itself, because I do have a main channel, by the way, that main channel, I talk Court YouTube. Basically, I'm covering a case that is currently a hot topic here in South Africa of a soccer star that was murdered well, we still don't know who murdered him. That happened about 9 years ago in 2014. So I don't think it's something that you'll take an interest in. However, I have seen a number of African Americans that follow me on this particular podcast channel that are over there, and then I see the comments, and I always appreciate it. Always, I love that. And so the other thing, what I wanted to say, oh yeah, so he went home because he had something that he needed to do back home, and it was going to take him about a month and a half to be there, but he cut his trip very short because number one, he was not feeling the US no more, and number two, the heat was too much for him, and which is kind of ironic because many people think that Africa is boiling hot. So I was like, oh, I thought it was Africa that was hot, but of course he's not that ignorant. He knows. He's been here now for 5 months in South. He's been living here in South Africa for 5 months now, and he has visited the country at least twice. He knows our winter. Currently, we're in winter, but we're now towards the end of winter, so he knows both sides of the two seasons, summer and winter, and then the U.S. summer. Even when he walked out through that sliding door, he looked dark. So I understood why he needed to run away from the US. So, and thirdly, it's how he was also treated when he got back home. Not necessarily by family and friends, but I think now he was looking at it in a culture, like a reverse culture shock type of way. Like, oh my goodness, I don't experience this in South Africa. I need to go back home. So his trip was cut short. Like I said, he was supposed to be there for a month and a half, and then he was like, I'm out of here. And he was back in 3 weeks. So as I was waiting for him, his flight was supposed to arrive or land at 7 p.m. It took off in Atlanta the previous day, I think at 7:30 or something like that. Or was it not? No, I'm sorry. Around 9:30 in Atlanta, and it was going to land in Johannesburg at 7 p.m. on Thursday. So then, of course, I went to the airport. Usually, whenever I'm going to meet somebody that's coming from the US, because I've been meeting a lot of y'all who come to South Africa, you DM me on my Instagram or you send me an email, say, hey, I'm coming down to South Africa. I would like to say hi just at the airport. We don't have to hang out. I just want to, give you a hug and say hello and all of that. And then we part ways. I've been doing that a lot. So whenever I do that, I always go to the airport an hour prior to you landing. Because sometimes you'll find that either the flight will land earlier or on time, or it will be delayed. So my friend, his name is Ronnie, by the way, Ronnie Dunn. He has a YouTube channel as well. I will show you his details on the screen in case you are interested in asking questions. He's very open to answering questions. As a person who's been here now for 5 months, I may not be able to tell you everything that you need to know, but you can find out from him at an African American perspective of him being here, or an African diasporan who may be living in Canada or in the UK or Brazil or wherever else, and then you might want to hear it from his point of view as a person who's new here in South Africa versus what I may say, because of course I'm a South African. In most cases, I'm going to be biased. I will tell you the truth. I'll definitely tell you the truth. If you ask me a direct question, I'm not going to beat about the bushes. I'll tell you as it is. I have no reason to lie to you or mislead you, because the last thing that I want is be responsible of you having something happen to you because I lied to you or misled you. I will never do that. I will tell you the raw truth as it is, and it's for you to make a decision at the end of the day. So, but then you can find out from him at an African American perspective whatever questions that you may have. I will leave his detail, and I will also leave the link of his YouTube channel in the description box as well, so that you can subscribe, ask him questions. He's also on Instagram as well. I think I'll copy that as well, and I will link it in the description box for you to have a chat with him. In fact, I will give you two of my African Americans that are living here. One of them is, they have a YouTube channel called Changing the Narrative. That is Stacy and Red. Maybe some of you may have seen them. I will also link their YouTube channels too. They also are willing to help you if you have questions about South Africa and things like that. And some of you already know Dr. Asad Malik as well. He also been living here for a year. I think they celebrated their first year anniversary living in South Africa in June, if I'm not, yeah, I think in June they did so. Now let's get to my observations. So I get to O.R Tambo International Airport. Of course, this is where your flight is going to land when you come to South Africa. I know there are also flights. I think United does land in Cape Town as well. But the two that I know, it is United as well as Delta. They land in O.R Tambo International Airport, which is in Johannesburg. So I went there around 6. In fact, it was about 5:45, or 5:45, I think, as you guys will call it here. We call it like military time. So about 5:45, I went to O.R Tambo International, and I just sat there and I realized as I was looking at the leaderboard, the flight was already written delayed. Instead of landing at 7, it said 7:35. So I was like, okay, it's cool. I can hang around. I went. There are restaurants at the airport. Basically, at airport, if you land, it looks almost like a mall. Basically, it's got all kinds of shops. Everything is there. So I decided to go and have myself a cup of coffee, and because I also have not had lunch earlier, and then I knew that once Ronnie lands, and by the way, Ronnie is also called Sbu. He got a South African Zulu name by Sbusiso, but we cut that into Sbu. Sbusiso basically means blessing, because he definitely is a blessing in my life and many other South Africans' lives that he's already touched. And this guy, he's ready to be a South African celebrity. I'm not going to say much. You guys are going to find out as the weeks roll out. You're going to find out what a big celebrity he's about to become here in South Africa. So that's another thing that he needed to return back to South Africa for, to continue his journey to South African entertainment industry of some sort. So I'm sitting at the airport. I decided to sit for a while at the terminal, like the arrival area. And I was just looking at people, you know, every time a plane lands, I'll look at the leaderboard and say, oh, okay, Emirates just landed. Oh, okay, this flight has landed. And then as people walk out into this double sliding doors that you walk out into the waiting area where your people that are waiting for you to arrive, either your Uber drivers or your hotel or what, a family member or a friend or whatever the case is, you just enter right onto them. Others, some are even holding some kind of placard with your name if they don't know how you look like. So I'm just sitting there and I'm like, okay, this is very interesting. I've seen it before, but it's never registered in my mind because it's not something that when you go to the airport you think about. But at the same time, now that I'm far more awoke than I've ever been, I'm looking at people coming out of these flights, all of them. And I'm like, thus far, I've seen only, okay, I do not want to be misconstrued or misunderstood in what I'm about to say. This is not a race type of conversation or who did what and that. No. It's my observation on something, because a question I therefore had in mind after Ronnie, this is Boo, walked out of the sliding door, and then everybody that came before him from Delta were not of they were not, and prior to him arriving, the people that were disembarking these flights were not these people. And if there were these people, there were, I would say, a drop in the ocean. A drop in the ocean. So then I was just like looking. I wanted to take videos, but then I don't believe in taking videos of people without their consent. So I was like, okay, this is probably something that I need to talk about. And maybe even yourself, when you travel to Africa, or whether you're traveling to South Africa or Kenya or wherever in Africa, maybe you can take an observation. But from what I understood from other people who have traveled to other African countries, they'll say the number is more black than it will be other races. But the planes to South Africa, however, is a totally different story. So then it hit me because Delta was not the only one that landed when Ronnie arrived. United also landed. It was, I think, the first flight from the US. I think it was from Newark. It was United. And then out of that flight, I only saw probably two of these people. And then the majority or all of them were these people. You know? And I was like, this is interesting. And I could not help ask myself a question in my mind like, hey, what do they know that these don't know? The math ain't mathing. They know something that these don't. What's happening? And then I continue to observe. I remember I was standing by the rails just towards Ronnie's arrival. Like maybe Ronnie had already, I think, he had already landed. And now he was at customs, I think, get himself through into the country. When one of these people just came up to me and said, can I touch you? Can I touch you? Okay, it's a little bit weird, but I thought, okay. So like, oh my goodness, I'm touching. This is an American, by the way, from Delta, the same flight that Ronnie had arrived. He's like, oh my goodness, are you South African? I'm like, yes, I'm South African. Which tribe are you from? This person is asking me this. Which tribe are you from? And I'm like, I'm Zulu. Oh my goodness, Shaka Zulu. Ooh, and he's like touching, and he's like, I'm so sorry. I hope I'm not being weird. In my mind, I'm like, you are, but okay, whatever. And it goes on and on and on. It's like, oh no, thank you. I just wanted to touch an authentic African. And I'm thinking, but you have these people in your country and you administrating them. What's happening? I don't get it. I just did not get that part at all. Because when Ronnie ended up arriving, there was a time where we went and sat down at the restaurant in the airport, just catching up and things like that. The same guy who wanted to touch me, he comes back because he's like, oh my goodness, I've been waiting for my what. And this guy says he's on his way. And then he sees Ronnie and he quickly realizes that he's African American. Did you see his face change? The facial expression was of disgust, not excitement. But when he looked in my direction, he would have this big white smile on his face. But when Ronnie would say something, his facial expression was like, what are you doing here? That type of... I was like, you know what? I hear, and I'm told by my African American friends how bad things are in the US for black people. But to actually witness it with my own eyes, I even stood up at this guy. I'm like, dude, I don't think what you're doing is correct. He's like, no, I've seen these people all the time. These people? But then the good thing, when I was having this conversation with this gentleman, Ronnie was on the call. He got a call. I think he got a call from one of the producers of what he is currently also doing here in South Africa. And then I'm telling this one, like, please, this is my friend. And not only is he my friend, he's also my brother. He's like, but then, I'm like, dude, I think you should leave. So eventually he left. When Ronnie was done with his phone call, I did not want him to stress out about what he left the US for to South Africa. I just quickly, took control of the situation, and then I will ask more about his trip in the his trip was back home and things like that. But I was bothered. I was bothered because this gentleman, he's now standing from afar and he's looking in my direction, and I'm like, this guy, you know, if I had power, I would declare him persona non grata, and deport him back to the US if I had powers. Then I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I am witnessing this. Why would you be happy to see in a different country but you don't like in your own country? I didn't understand that part for me. I just did not get it. I don't think I'll ever get it. And I think you guys, not that you are not believed. We see it. We see it on the news. What? Somebody just this week or the week before shot 3 of my people. I think in Florida or something like that. Upsetting stuff. For what good reason? For what good reason? But you are happy to see me because I come from South Africa. Yet I am also, there's no difference between me and them. I'm so sorry with the noise. Let me just close this door. Sorry about that. Kids are making noise. I did not understand that. I was hurt. I was really, really hurt. But with the Ronnie's flight as well, people that were coming out, I would assume that people that came out with Ronnie in this flight, I would say there were about 10 or 20, but it was a full flight. And if I understand Delta's wide-body planes, they take over 200 passengers. And this was a full flight. So seeing 10 of our people, it's still not enough for me. It's still not enough for me, which continues to beg this question in my mind. What do they know that you don't know? What is it? And then another question that I have to ask. You know, I wrote my notes here and I'm looking at them, and I wrote here, the numbers of passengers disembarking flights don't add up. Not just flights from the US, but from UK, Canada, and Brazil. Still, there was one flight where everybody, the 100%, I think that flight was from the UK. That flight was from the UK. I think, if I read correctly, it was from Heathrow. That entire plane, and it was an A380. And if you know anything about A380s, they take over 500, I think it's 520 passengers. So I was like, what do they know that you don't know, African diasporans? I'm not just talking to African Americans here. I'm talking to African diasporans. And you know what I also find interesting? There's a lady that did a video about why she's moving to South Africa with her family. And the amount of backlashing she was getting from, I didn't understand that. I don't understand why our people would, you know what? I think in the last 15, 20 years, Black people have become awoke. You know, we've become awoke about so many things, and so many are taking action on top of being awoke. And they are either visiting the African continent, or they'll choose a country on the African continent, whether it's Ghana, or whether it's going to be Kenya, or South Africa, or Namibia, or Nigeria, or Sierra Leone, and so on and so forth. They don't have a problem with you visiting, but there will be those that will also have a problem you visiting, because they will think going to Peru, or going to Venezuela, or going to Spain, or Italy, or France, yeah, you are doing the right thing. But the moment you say you are going to Africa, the amount of criticism, these are people who purport to be woke. The amount of criticism is mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing. And yet, in the same breath, there are these people who will create a video basically telling everybody or sharing with everybody that watches their videos that they are relocating back to their home country, meaning like back to their ancestral countries, whether that is Ireland or Italy or England or Scotland or whatever the case might be, wherever their DNA comes from, they are relocating there. The same of our people. Oh, that's great. That's awesome. It's always great to go back to and, be in touch with your roots. But immediately when it is this that is saying the very same thing on a video, what is going on out there? Why do we hate ourselves so much? Yes, okay, fine. You've been, how do I put this? You've been conditioned that Africa is a dark continent. Africa is poor. Africa is disease riddled. Africa is whatever. Yes, I admit we have all of that. We have all of that. But there is a whole lot of good in Africa that outweighs the bad. That is why these planes, as I was observing, are full of these people. Because there is more good than there is bad. But you've been fed that there is more bad than there is good. But I'm going to challenge you at the end of this video. And when you do take this challenge, observe. Observe. And then as you are flying for however many hours, I believe, from Atlanta to Johannesburg is 16-hour flight. From Newark to Johannesburg is 15 hours. In those hours, you need to make some serious introspections. Ask yourself questions. I would even go as far, because I'm a curious person. I would go to them and say, hey, can I ask a question? I see you're going to South Africa. What's happening there? I'm going there. You can give them a reason as to why you're going there. Either you say I'm going there for a visit, but be curious enough to understand why that flight is full of these people versus these people. Because I would ask a number of them, maybe 5 or 11, and ask them, why are you going to South Africa? What is there? Of course, their response is going to be in a most condescending tone, because you're asking something that you should, how do I put it? But I think that it's not going to be a pleasant response to you because why you're here. But if you get an honest person, they will tell you, oh, I have businesses there. Oh, I have a home there. Ask questions. So how long have you been living there? You'll be shocked to hear they've been here living 30 years, 40 years. Their children grew up here, born here, even though they have dual citizenship. Most of them have dual citizenship. They got South African and American citizenship, because this has become their roots as well. Especially their children. Their children would adamantly tell you, I'm a South African citizen. America is just a second home to me. How beautiful would that be if it was these people also saying the same thing? That, oh, South Africa is my home. It's my roots. That's where I was born. But I also have a home in America. I'm an American. My parents are American. And I go to my second home either for a holiday or for spring break or whatever the case might be. Wouldn't that be nice? But yeah, be curious enough to ask. I understand that there is that mistrust between the two. There's a mistrust between the two. So it might be difficult for this person to go to this person and ask a question. But for your own research, find out. Just find out and then go back to your seat and introspect. Start thinking and asking yourself questions. And if you get the right one, They will tell you the blueprint. And they will probably even give you advice as to what you need to tap on when you get to South Africa. I'm talking in terms of business opportunities. They might even go as far as telling you what are the best places to buy a home, or if you need a job, what jobs that are available for the African diasporans. You know what I'm trying to say? But sometimes we do miss opportunities if we're not going to. If you ask not, you'll get not, basically. So be curious and be brave enough to approach and say, hey, can I ask you an honest question? Why you headed to South Africa? I don't mean to mind your business, but I'm just curious. Some of them will tell you, no, I'm a South African. Chances are you'll hear that some of them will say, oh, no, I'm a South African. But you will also hear a lot. I'm sorry about that. Let me just put this phone on silent. I thought I'd put it on silent. But you're also going to hear some of them who are African, who are American, will tell you, no, I live in South Africa. I've been living in South Africa for X number of years. My children were born there. My children grew up there. My children went to college there. We just go to the US for whatever reason. Some will even go as far as telling you the US quality of life is non-existent. You will find it in South Africa, which is the truth. They will tell you, others will tell you about the food in the US. It's not as healthy as the food in South Africa or in Africa. So you will understand and you will learn things that you never thought existed about Africa. So now I'm trying to understand those that are so overly critical. They would go and say things that when you read, because I do read these comments, and some things are quite upsetting for me as an African. And recently, because we are having load shedding and we are having other ills, but the one that always leads the pack is the crime in South Africa. Oh, there's crime there. You know, you get killed. There's guns blazing everywhere. I've been sitting here for over 33 minutes now, and not once have I heard a gunshot. Number two, I have not heard an ambulance pass by with sirens blazing or police sirens blazing. And it's like this throughout months. Except for rainy days, because some people, they like to drive fast during rainy days and then they cause accidents. And when you hear a siren, it's usually an ambulance running to go and get the casualties of that accident. I think those are the only sirens you're going to hear, never police sirens. Secondly, you will never hear gunshots. I'm just talking about my country. I don't know any other country on the African continent. I'm just talking about South Africa, because this is the only country I know. You will not hear anything of that nature. Yes, there is crime. Even myself, as a South African citizen, I know which places to go and which places not to go. So as a tourist or as a person that is just relocated to South Africa, wise up. Find out where should I be and where should I not be in order for you not to become a victim. You understand what I'm trying to say? Even I, as a South African myself, I don't carry valuable things on me in case a stupid criminal takes a chance in a place that I consider safe. So things like that, I think it's not a phenomena that is only here in South Africa. It's the same phenomena you will find in Paris. I've heard people say, in Paris, there is a place that you shouldn't go to. If you go to Germany, they'll say, don't go to this particular area in Germany. If you go to the US, I'm sure you from the US or Canada or UK, you'll be told these areas are a no-go zone area. You will get mugged or even shot. Then you look at statistics. Like, okay, they're saying South Africa is so dangerous. You look at statistics. And then I'm thinking, why this doesn't make sense? You look at crime statistics per city in the world. And then you find cities in the US that outnumbers the number of killings or robberies in South Africa. But why are they not mentioned in these indexes? So once again, you get to understand that there is propaganda that is targeted at South Africa to discredit South Africa. And the question now is, we recently had a BRICS summit, which is an equivalent to the G7 summit or something like that. There are 5 countries that founded BRICS. Basically, BRICS means it's an abbreviation of 5 countries, if I'm not wrong. That is BR, that's Brazil. I is India. No, I'm wrong. Sorry. B is Brazil. R is Russia. I is India. C is China. And S is South Africa. So South Africa is a co-founder of BRICS nations. 5 countries that started it, I think about 12 years ago, something like that. Probably, whatever. Around there. Why? Because they wanted to move away from the dollar and the superpower that it has over the world, that the US can do as they please because they remain to be a superpower that is unchallenged. So recently we had that summit here in South Africa, and I understand it ruffled some feathers on Capitol Hill, basically, and it had a lot of people shaking in their boots because BRICS has some serious resolutions to implement that are going to change the course of the world. And I understand there are other countries that want to join the BRICS. Some of the countries that I got shocked that want to join the BRICS are allies of the United States, like Saudi Arabia. So, of course, the propaganda is not going to stop. But for me, this is an opportunity for these people to get yourself here. And I'm not just talking South Africa. I'm talking Africa. Because your pot of gold, I believe, is awaiting you. The more you criticize those that travel to Africa, relocate to Africa, you'll be left alone with these people making sure that you are pinned down and there is no way of getting out. Those that are out are lucky. They will be lucky. That's my foresight of this entire situation. If you are still criticizing those that are leaving, you're going to get stuck. And then you will forever be a slave that is going to ensure that that country survives from the power of BRICS. And then those that are inside in the BRICS nation, particularly in South Africa, I'm just going to talk about South Africa again, particularly in South Africa, they'll be thriving. They'll be developing themselves into multi-millionaires, billionaires even. Because that is what BRICS intends to do. Eradicate poverty, eradicate anything that is suppressing these 5 countries and any other that is going to join as they're going to start accepting them. It's all going to be about true greener pastures. And let me tell you something, they sold this idea to everybody in Africa. I'm very critical. I wouldn't say I'm critical. I would say I'm a bit skeptical, about BRICS, and then I'll probably tell you in another podcast what are my reservations about BRICS. But the resolutions that they've taken, I foresee them succeeding, provided that when the US allies do not come, that rule and divide, because it's going to take just one to break this whole thing apart. But from what I understood, they have built a very tight unit that nobody can penetrate. Nobody can penetrate. So you can tell already that the future, if this BRICS idea works, anybody that is caught inside is going to benefit greatly from it. And anybody that is locked out, you're locked out. So these are the things that I believe those that are criticizing the African diaspora either visiting or relocating to Africa, rethink your position. Because where you're at, you remain and you will always be, and you will never be seen. Ever. And then those that escaped, they will live a peaceful mindset, thriving, talking success, and happy. So I don't know. It's totally up to how your experience, where you at, determines whether it's a good idea to just take a chance. You know, just take a chance. Hop on that plane and go to Ghana. Hop on that plane and go to Lagos, Nigeria. Hop on that plane, go to Johannesburg, South Africa. Who knows what you might find waiting for you on the other side. And I can tell you, with what I've been observing with those that finally arrive here, even at the airport, we met another African-American lady. She's traveling solo. She's going to be in South Africa for 3 months. She started in Durban. When right there at the airport, she recognized Ronnie because Ronnie's a YouTuber. And she even told Ronnie, you are one of the reasons why I chose to come here. Now, she's thinking of, relocating. She's a medical doctor, if I picked up correctly from her. She's a medical doctor who's planning on retiring. And then she needs to decide she'll live 1 month in Durban, 1 month in Cape Town, and 1 month in Johannesburg. Then she'll make a decision which province or city she feels more comfortable living in. She's in Durban right now. She started with Durban, and then she says she's going to be in Johannesburg around 15th of October. And then Cape Town will be her last destination before she leaves back to the US. She's from Florida. So, from my observations, everybody, I'm going to speak about African Americans because those are the only ones that I have met thus far. Even though I've had 3 Canadians that contacted me and say, hey, we are coming in November. Is it okay if we met you? And things like that. I said, cool. I have no problem with that. We can sit down, have a cup of coffee, and then I will just draw you a picture of what you should expect while you are here, what to stay away from, etc., and so on. Okay? So now I just want to talk about a challenge. Okay, wait. Let me just check on my notes. There's something that I feel like I missed out that I did not talk about. Yeah, the criticism, they are so, I don't know. Somebody might say it's brainwashed or it's what the African diaspora has been fed about Africa. But you cannot claim to be woke at the same time. Your roots. I don't care how you see yourself. Because at the end of the day, as long as you are this, you come from Africa. Even if you see yourself as a Native American, that your forefathers who are Africans, by the way, intermingled with the Native Americans, nonetheless, your roots are still come from here. You can come for me for that. I'm fine. I'm ready for you. Because I've been having a lot, every time when I use the word African Americans, they get triggered. They come flooding in my comment section. And then say, yeah, don't call it African Americans. We're not African Americans. We have no roots or history with Africa. In South Africa, we say denial is a river in Egypt. I'm so sorry to tell you that your denial is just a river in Africa. So you might as well come home. Go swim in it. Who knows? You might wake up. But anyways, here's a challenge that I have for you before I close this vlog. And today, I feel like I was very loud, more than usual. Here's my challenge. And please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. If you can afford. If you can afford. And if you've been sitting on the fence, you included, Sure, okay. Just take that plunge if you can afford. Look for flights that are $600 from wherever you come from to Johannesburg. Again, I'm just going to speak about my country because this is the only home I know. But feel free to go to Ghana. Feel free to go to other African countries as well. But I'm here because I'm going to be biased towards my country. There are $600 flights, $800 flights, $900 flights to South Africa. If you can secure yourself a return ticket, even if you are here for 2 days or 3 days or 7 days, 14 or 30 days, give yourself that opportunity to go fill up those flights from Newark, Atlanta, as well as Washington, D.C. I think there's an Washington, D.C. flight, or is it L.A., to South Africa. Take that number and disproportionate and fill it up with and come to South Africa. 2-3 days, whatever the case might be. And then go back home. Maybe when you get back home, you will have a different perspective as well. Because when you land, you'll be kissed by your ancestors. Yes, I can understand your African roots may come from West Africa. But South Africa is still part of Africa. You are home. And we will be there at the airport with wide open arms to warmly welcome you home. So wherever you land, Ghana or wherever, you will be warmly welcomed home. That's my challenge to you. If you can afford it, I think the month of December, because it's summer here, it's not cold, hop on that flight in your numbers. I'm talking in great numbers. Collect your friends, your family, somebody who's willing to jump on that bandwagon and fill up those flights and come here. Accommodation is cheap in South Africa, whether it's a hotel, Airbnb, they're quite cheap. You can Google them and you will find it yourself. And secondly, food here, not only is it quality, but also cheap. You don't have to come here with an expensive budget of more than $1,500. That's just my take. Your $1,000 is for your flight, and then the rest is for your Uber and food and accommodation. If you can afford far more than that, then do so. But I can tell you one thing, you're going to have the time of your life. Chances are you might even decide to stay for extra, to just stay for the free visa of 3 months that you'll be granted. Because I've seen many people that thought, I'm coming to South Africa just for 3-5 days. But 3 months later, they're still here. Why? Because it's difficult to leave. They can't leave the peace of mind that they've been experiencing. They can't leave the quality food. They can't leave the quality of life they're experiencing. And how far they can stretch the dollar as well in South Africa. So those are the things that I'm challenging you to. That this is if you can afford. I'm not saying, hey, not all of us that are black people in the US can afford. I know that. If you have to, I would still say, if you have $1,500 in your pocket and you are willing to take that plunge, take it. Take it, come, enjoy yourself for that few days. And then when you go back home, you'll have a different perspective. You'll have a different perspective. Take off your shoes and touch the soil of the motherland. It will change your life. Honestly speaking, it doesn't matter where in Africa you are going to land. Of course, there are African countries that are experiencing a lot of ills. Do your research. Do not say, Clantis said I must go anywhere in Africa, and you get there, there's a war. Because yes, There are some African countries that are experiencing, unfortunately, those sort of things. You need to do your research. Very important. Don't hop on the plane out of excitement because this is what Clantis said. Do your research and then be comfortable enough knowing that when I land in South Africa, where I'm going to be accommodated, and etc. and so on. And then when I go back home, I'm not going to have any trouble. Don't get stuck in South Africa either, or anywhere in Africa for that matter. So anyways, that is my challenge to you. If you can afford, please, we are waiting for you, and we will definitely make you feel at home. In December, South Africa is not a month. South Africa is not a festive, well, how do you put it? How do we put it again? Okay, winter has been long. Okay, winter has been long. Where basically we call South Africa in December a vibe, and you'll actually get to experience that vibe. You'll experience that vibe. I always say it's because this is a true story, actually. It's a true story. And this is a story that you will hear a lot in January. You send your 17-year-old child to go buy bread on the 16th of December. And the next time you see them is around the 10th of January the following year. That's how bad things are. And the bad part I'm talking about, that's how good things are. Even the same person that sent them to buy bread, they forget about that. Because they're having so much fun, they don't realize that there's a child missing. They don't realize there's a child missing. And the first time they see the child is January, when they have to go to school the next day. So that is why I'm saying South Africa is a vibe in December. It's a lifestyle. It is. So you need to prepare yourself. Come to South Africa if you are a person that drinks. Come really, really thirsty. And when I say thirsty, bottomless thirsty, when you're starting getting filled up. Okay, that is all that, guys, that I want to say in this video. And once again, guys, I just want to thank everybody that is still, how do you say it? PayPal? What do you say again? When you donating PayPal. I appreciate it, guys, so very much. Recently, I've been having some really, really big challenges, and this money came in handy. It's just as if the universe just opened and said, I got your back. You know, I so appreciate that, you guys, so much. So I just want to say that. Thank you. And then I also want to thank those that go to my main channel and you super thank my channel. Cynthia, I'm talking about you. Yeah, I'm going to name drop. Thank you for that. That sustaining my channel like that is amazing. Thank you. I don't know. The only words that I can say to you is that in my language, which is Zulu City, basically, if I loosely translate that, is abundance of blessings to you and your family and your generations. That is my curse to you, that you be blessed abundantly. You, your family, your children, their children, and their children's children. That's how we do blessings here in Africa. I'm just saying that if you are thinking for yourself, we're living in very tough economic times. Don't look at yourself as stingy. You are just saving for yourself and your family. Understandable. So I just want to thank you. Thank you, guys. You've been incredible. Yeah, thank you. I highly, highly appreciate it. And lastly, again, guys, just to remind you before you leave, smash the like button. It will help this channel to gain more subscribers and views, as well as get me to the 4,000 hours of watch time. And then if you have not subscribed and you are just watching, please also smash the subscribe button and click the bell notification so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Lastly, what else that I need to say? Oh yeah, you can leave me a comment down below. You can ask me any questions. My email address is also in the about section of the channel on YouTube. You can send me an email. I have no issue with that. I do communicate back. And yeah, I think that is it, guys. Thank you all for listening on YouTube. Thank you for listening as well. I shall see you again in my next podcast video. Many blessings to all of you. Many blessings. May it pour nothing but blessings in your lives for being here. I appreciate you so much. What else did I leave? Nothing. So I'll see you again. I'll see you again. Goodbye.